Okay, welcome to the England Valley Storytellers. My name is John St. Clair. I'm the leader of this group, and we are going to start out with some announcements. And Ron, you can announce first.
Okay. Yes, the South Coast Story Guild, which had a beautiful location for so many years, and that was taken away when they tore down the building to build a bigger building. Okay, and then was meeting in basically a concrete square in someplace in Orange County, just a terrible room with horrible acoustics, is now going to move to St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Tustin, where I attend with my beautiful wife. And it will be a nice, quiet room with excellent Wi-Fi, good acoustics, and best of all, it will never be taken away from us, so we can actually build up in-person storytelling again. We do a hybrid session so that some of us are there in the room telling stories to each other, and some people zoom in and tell stories, and some people just zoom in to listen. So that'll be a week from Thursday, and I don't have a link handy, but it's southcoaststorytellers.org will get you to us. And then you can look up the link.
Right. Okay, very good. And I'm going to repeat what I said earlier before I started the recording, and that is that this week, Elizabeth Ellis is telling stories at the International Storytelling Center. And in the chat section is the link to go to the International Storytelling Center. And highly recommend Elizabeth Ellis. She's one of my very favorite storytellers. And who knows how long she'll be with us. She's getting up there in years and her health is not great. She's just an incredible source of stories. Okay, so normally when we have anybody that is new to the group, we go around and introduce each other. And so we can tell each other a little bit about ourselves. I'm going to start. So John St. Clair, I live in Ontario. I'm a retired public school teacher, taught for 35 years. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put myself on spotlight. I'll spotlight each person as they tell about themselves. So I taught for 35 years, started doing stories with the England Valley Storytellers in 2003. So it's almost been 20 years. And actually, my wife got into stories before I did, and about 10 years prior to that. And then once I retired from teaching in 2010, I really started devoting more of my time to a number of activities that I love to do, and storytelling is one of them. Okay, Ron, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Spotlight?
Yep, I had to remove mine first. There.
I'm Ron Chick at Chain Unbroken Stories. I've been storytelling since 1973. I taught special education for 28 years in the Alvord district and regular education 3 years before that. So I taught for a long time. I am a member of this guild, the Long Beach Storytelling Guild, the Utah Storytelling Guild, the South Coast Storytelling Guild. And I generally try and get to some event at least once a year. The announcement I wanted to make was that we are now going to be at the St. Paul's Church, in Tustin, and we will be able to continue meeting there in hybrid format. You are welcome to come physically, share the room with us, tell a story, listen to a story, or you are welcome to Zoom in for that activity. And of course, I got a wide range of stories to tell. So whenever we get to that part of the program, I think tonight I will do Bobby Norfork's The Eagle and the Chicken.
Okay.
That's my announcements.
All right, I'm going to remove your spotlight and put Edgar on spotlight.
Okay. Well, my name is Edgar. I'm originally from Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. Lived there for many years, almost 40 years plus. Was in education, special ed type stuff, K through 12, paraeducator type stuff. Moved to Riverside recently, and published a bunch of books, trying to figure out how to, get these ideas out there and tell stories from them, which is why I'm trying to do this. And I've done some Toastmaster stuff, but never really done any of this. So it's kind of the first step, I guess. And just recently joined Storytellers. So I guess that's my basic story right now.
Yeah. So were you able to locate the email or the invite?
Where I was gonna. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let
So
me see if I can. It says John Sinclair. From
okay.
John.
So that's me.
Yeah.
So you got an invite from me. That's very interesting. So
Yeah.
that means you are on my mailing list.
Oh wow. Okay.
So did you request to be put on my mailing list? Maybe.
Yeah, I contacted a couple different ones.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess this is
probably what it
Okay.
was. I got an email from you asking, because I do get emails from people asking if they can attend our meetings.
Right.
And I say yes, and I put them on my mailing list, and sometimes I never see them again. And sometimes they actually do follow through. So welcome to this group. I'm going to put spotlight back on me. So this group is very open-ended. You're welcome to just listen if that's all you want to do. If you want to try telling a story, that's fine too. And one thing that's unique about the England Valley Storytellers is that we don't usually set up themes that everybody follows. It's very much open-ended. Sometimes what happens, someone will tell a story and it'll trigger other people, and they'll tell a story they hadn't even thought they were going to tell because the other story kind of triggered a memory of something, a favorite story they hadn't even thought about for a while. So that happens sometimes. Usually we have many more people than this. When we were meeting live, we would have 15 to 20 people. Now, we've never had that many on Zoom, but last month, I think we had about 10 people. I'm not sure why so few. I do know some people are traveling during the summer and they may be on vacation. So, Ron, would you like to start with a story?
Jason, come back. Yes. Hopefully I can get my hand gestures into this because the story is kind of dependent upon them. I gotta be able to move for it. So sit in a chair. This story is called The Eagle and the Chicken. Bobby Norfork, the famous culturalist, had a version of it. Mine has changed into more me than him. There was a farmer who was going to cut down a scrag of a tree at the corner of his land that had been dead for some time. But when he went out there to climb, he looked up and he realized there was a nest at the top. So he got his climbing spikes and he climbed all the way up, and sure enough, it was an eagle's nest. And in the eagle's nest was an eagle's egg. So he carefully put it in his pocket and worked his way back down the tree and took the egg and put it under one of his sitting hens, and then went out and cut down the tree. When Eaglet hatched, he had a terrible time living life as a chicken. The other chicks had no trouble at all running across the yard after the hen. His curved talons made running on the ground very difficult, and he was always the last one to reach anywhere. He also had a very hard time pecking at grains. His curved eagle's beak required that he literally turn himself sideways and scoop at them. But Eaglet's eyes were sharp, and he could spot bugs better than any other bird in the yard, and he grew and grew and grew. One day, an older eagle was flying high in the sky over the farm, and he looked down and he saw what appeared to be an adult eagle hopping along the ground amongst a bunch of hens. He thought, how strange. Why would any eagle do such a thing? And so he swooped down. Of course, all the other birds scattered. Eaglet ran as fast as he could, but suddenly here was a great big eagle in front of him saying, what are you doing down here? I don't know. What do you mean? Hey, you are an eagle like me. You are meant to soar high in the sky. I'm a chicken. Trust me, kid. You are an eagle. Climb up on my back right now. Eaglet thought, I better do as he says. But if he wanted chicken for breakfast, I'd already be dead. I don't know what to do. And he climbed up, and the eagle took off. And he flew high, high, high in the sky. And he called back to the eaglet, isn't this great? It's magnificent up there. And then he looked back and realized eaglet had his eyes closed. Open your eyes and look around. See what you are meant to be. I can't. I'm a chicken. Trust me, kid. You're an eagle. You're meant to soar up here with me. Hey, open your eyes. I can't. Open your eyes or you will die. And with that, the eagle flipped over and down tumbled eaglet. Help, 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 save me, save me, save me, help, 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 cried the eaglet. That boy's gonna get himself smashed. Why would he open his eyes? Why don't he try? Eagle went into a steep swoop, came up above him and clutched him in his claws and looked at him and said, you are an eagle. I know what you are. You are going to learn to fly. And he carried him even higher, higher, higher into the sky. And he looked down at him and said, I'm going to let you go. And if you don't spread your wings and open your eyes, you will surely die. And he let go. Help, save me, said the eaglet. If I rescue him again, he never will learn. He just called out, open your eyes, spread your wings, you can do this. Eaglet tumbled through the air and didn't know what to do. He thought, I wonder how far it is to the ground. And he opened one eye and he made one more tumble. And that's when it happened. A bright ray of sunlight hit him right in his open eye, but he wasn't blinded. His other eye flew open. Eagle called out, that's right, kid, now spread your wings. Eaglet looked into the shining sun and spread his wings and felt the power of the wind flowing over him. Now, spread your tail feathers, kid. Suddenly, Eaglet was flowing along in the air. He looked down and he could see hundreds of things he'd never seen before. He looked up and he seemed like he could see forever. The older eagle flew up next to him. Now, you got a lot more to learn here. This is how you beat your wings to go higher. And he turned his wings, he showed him, and Eaglet flapped his wings for the first time and found that he was flying higher and higher. Now, we'll go back into a glide. We got a lot to learn, kid. Eaglet looked over at the sun and looked over at the bright world all around him, and thought, maybe I am an eagle after all. Now, like all fables, this one has morals. The first one's pretty obvious. Hey, you can only soar like an eagle if you believe you can. But more important is this one. Sometimes we need a helper, an inspiration, an older and wiser person, a mentor, to help us see who we are and what we can become. Bobby Norfork's The Eagle and the Chicken.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Now, have you ever heard Antonio Rojas' version of that?
I didn't know Antonio had one.
Yeah. And of course he does miming with it while he's doing, I mean,
Of
he really
course.
gets into the motion and yeah, but it's the same basic story. I'm sure he got it from the same source you did.
Yeah, Bobby Norfork's tales, moral tales, or whatever they were,
Yeah. That's a great story.
value stories.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I see my wife, Chris, has joined the group. Chris, we have a new person. His name is Edgar.
Other.
So I think I will tell the next story. Let's see if I can put spotlight on me. Yeah, I'm going to tell a personal story, which I usually, I don't do that real often. I like folk tales and fairy tales and fables mostly, and that's mostly what I tell. But I'm going to tell a personal story about my experiences as a public school teacher. And Ron's probably heard this before, and of course Chris has, but this will be new for Edgar. I started out teaching kindergarten and first grade. I taught 13 years of kindergarten and 4 years of first grade, were my first 17 years. And 13 of those years was at a school that started out as an all kindergarten school. This was in the city of Ontario, the Ontario Montclair School District. And this school had been a school for the trainably mentally retarded. So it was a special ed school, but the district had built a huge new school for lots of different levels of special ed. And those kids were moved to that new school, and this school, Linda Vista School, sat idle for a couple of years. And at that time, this happened to be in the late 70s, early 80s, the city of Ontario was growing rapidly in population because the dairy farms were selling their land and moving up to Central California, and houses were being built. And so some of the schools in that area were becoming overcrowded. And so what they decided to do was the 3 schools that were in the general vicinity of Linda Vista School got rid of their kindergarten, and all the kindergartners from those 3 attendance areas went to Linda Vista School. So it was an all kindergarten school with 1 Head Start preschool as well. And this caused, because the school had sat empty for a while, there were a few issues with the electrical system, because the school was built with outlets on the floor, and it had flooded while it was unattended, and that caused some problems. And they thought they got it all cleaned up. But that first year, we kept having circuits break and the power go out in one particular classroom. It was room 17, I think, either that or 15. And they couldn't figure out what was causing it. So they sent an electrician to observe what was happening in that classroom. And the electrician couldn't see anything unusual. He was particularly interested in the area between 9:30 and 10:30. That's when the electricity would go out. And the first day he went, it happened, but he didn't know why. So he came back the next day. And this time he was trying to be even more diligent. And so when anybody in the general area of that classroom did anything, he was on top of it. Well, he followed this one little boy into the boys' restroom. And that's when he found out what was happening, because the little boy was peeing into the electrical outlet on the floor and blowing the circuit. And so, of course, he told the boy, no, that you don't do that. That can be dangerous. You're causing a problem here. And of course, the teacher had to talk with the boy. And that's when they decided to kind of plug up all of the outlets in the bathrooms, at least, so that wouldn't happen again. So that was an unusual problem. There was another incident that happened at that school. One of the nice things about the school, because it was all kindergarten, everything was focused on kindergarten kids. And a lot of times kindergarten kids don't really get much attention. So we actually had a special ed teacher there, RSP teacher there, to service the kindergarten kids. So when kids had learning disabilities, they were being discovered much more quickly than they would if those kindergartners were in a K-6 school, for instance. So another thing that was good is that we decided to spend money on bringing culture to these kids. The school was in the poverty area of Ontario, and a lot of the kids didn't have a variety of experiences outside of their own little neighborhood. So one of the things we did is we had the LA Music Center send performers. But probably the most popular program was this guy from Minnesota who every January would come out to Southern California, and his name was Monty, and his show was called Monty's Reptiles. He'd have this big trailer with all kinds of reptiles in it. He had snakes, he had lizards, and he had an alligator. Now, the first year he came, the alligator was no more than a foot long, but every year the alligator kept getting bigger. And it got to the point where the alligator was like, 6 feet long, and he had a harness on him and a leash, but he would have to stop the show, go outside to the van, get the alligator out of the van, and pull him into the cafetorium, is what we called it. It was the cafeteria that had tables that would go up into the walls. So it was a wide open space. The kids would sit on the linoleum floor, the tile floor, in a big circle, and Monty and all of his reptiles are in the middle. So this one year, he got to the school early before it started, and he went to the principal. He said, "Is there any place I can put this alligator in a closet somewhere in the school so I don't have to go out and get him out of my van? It'll make the show go much more smoothly." And so the principal said, "Yeah, sure, here's a closet." And he put the alligator in the closet. Unfortunately, it was the supply closet for the cafeteria. And nobody told the cafeteria worker that there was an alligator in her closet. So when she came later to set up for lunch and opened that closet door and saw that alligator, she let out a blood-curdling scream that we could hear throughout the school because it was an enclosed school. And I'm sure she gained a few gray hairs with that one. So that was an unusual experience. And then after 17 years, I moved to middle school, and middle school had its own peculiar things. One thing a superintendent told me when I said I wanted to move to the middle school, and he said, "Oh, you'll probably do great there, but I have one important message for you. Make sure the kids are on your side." And I always remembered that. And I always started out each year introducing myself, making me be a real person to them, not just some authority figure teacher. Anyway, our school had a wonderful music program. There was a great chorus teacher, a great band teacher, and every December they would put on a Christmas program. And we did not have an auditorium. What they would do, this school was built in the mid-70s with accordion walls, and you could expand, you could join two classrooms together, for instance. And so they would open up the wall between the choral room and the band room to make it a bigger room. And there was a kind of a stage area on one end. And it was big enough for the parents to come and listen to the show, but it wasn't big enough for the performers, for the kids to listen to each other. And so what we had to do is we would have the beginning band in room 5 and the intermediate band in room 7 and the advanced band in room 11. And when it was their turn, and each of those rooms, there would be a teacher that was supervising them. And then when it was almost time for them to perform, we take them out of the classroom. They'd stand outside of the performance room, ready to come in when the other group finished. Well, the advanced band, when they finished performing, the chorus was standing outside. And as the band came out of the room and the chorus was ready to start going in, several of the chorus members said to the band members, "You guys suck," as middle school students are prone to do. They were criticizing their classmates, making fun of them. But this did not sit too well with the advanced band. And as it turns out, they were rather talented. When they went back to, actually, I think they were in the library, is where they went back to. They started plotting a plan, because you see, at the end of the concert, the performance, they would bring the advanced band and the advanced chorus out together, and they do the Hallelujah chorus together. And so the band members started whispering to each other, and they thought up a plan. And so they were able to do this without the teacher noticing. And amazingly, they had the skill to pull it off. When they got on stage for the Hallelujah chorus, the band teacher started, conducting, and it started out beautifully. And then on a signal from one of the kids, the band started increasing the tempo, and it got faster and faster and faster. And the chorus tried to keep up with the band. And it was actually quite hilarious, although the teachers did not think so. And that was the way the band got even with the chorus. Now, I have one other story, which has to do with a problem that sometimes happens in public schools when there is a teacher that is not a very good teacher, and actually shouldn't be teaching. It's just not their cup of tea, because teaching is very difficult, and it takes a special kind of person with special talents to do a good job. And there was a SDC teacher, a special day class, at one of the other middle schools, his first year as teacher. He should have been fired, but he wasn't. Instead, that principal makes sure he was transferred to our school. Well, he didn't pick us deliberately. I think he just wanted to make sure that this guy was transferred to another school. He didn't want to deal with him. And so he ended up at our school. This was his second year, so he was still on probation. And my lunch buddy that I ate lunch with every day was the instructional aide in that SDC class. And she started telling me stories about this guy. She said, "John, it's like Lord of the Flies in there. He has no control." And the odd thing is this guy was absolutely huge, physically, and buff, but he did not have any control over the students in the classroom at all. And one day she came in, she said, "John, this guy not only has no control, but he's dumb. He came to me and asked me to show him how to do long division because he was supposed to teach it to the kids. So he did not know how to do long division." How he passed the CBEST test in the math section, I don't know. He must have guessed a lucky pattern and passed it. I don't know. Anyway, so I said, Diana, you've got to let the principal know. And she said, no, I don't want to cause any problems. I'm just going to transfer out of that room. I can't handle it. So it just so happened that another SDC class, the instructional aide, resigned her position because she thought she could make more money as a substitute teacher. And so there was an opening. And so Diana went in and said, I want to transfer out of the room I'm in to take this opening. And the principal said, well, is there anything wrong? And well, I don't want to say anything bad. Diana, is there anything wrong? And so she started telling the principal what was happening. So the principal started going in and documenting what was happening in the classroom. And by the end of December, when it was time for the winter break, he was fired, which is what the first principal should have done, but they were too lazy to document and do it. Because this person really didn't fit. He shouldn't have been a teacher. Anyway, I have one incident that I had with him, and I was the tech support at my school. And one day he said at lunch, John, I can't log into my computer. And I said, okay, I'll stop by after school. So I go in after school and I say, well, sit down at the computer and log in. Let me see what you're doing. And on the screen, it had his name already typed in. And then when he typed in his password, all I saw were a bunch of little dots. You don't actually see the letters. And sure enough, the login failed. And I said, well, let me try it. So I go to the computer and I delete his name out of the username. And I look at the keyboard and I say, oh my God, the kids had popped all of the key caps off the keys and put the letters in alphabetical order. And this guy did not know that's not what the keyboard's supposed to look like. And that's why he was not typing his password correctly, because he was pushing the different letter keys, but it wasn't giving the letter that he was expecting it to give. And he didn't know because it was just a bunch of dots. So that was my experience with this guy. Anyway, so those are just some of my experiences as a teacher. I am so glad I went into the profession. It was not always easy, but it had a lot of rewarding experiences and certainly was a challenge all the time. Thank you.
Yay. Nicely done, John.
Now, you had heard that before, hadn't you, or not?
I had heard part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Heard about the boy in the bathroom.
Yeah. So we have a couple more. Adrian and Angela have joined us.
Hello.
Howdy. Howdy.
So Adrian, you want to introduce yourself quickly? We have a new member that doesn't know you.
Hi, I'm Adrian, and let's see. I too am in the teaching profession on the college level, but sometimes, experience with elementary kids comes in handy there too. I do some editing and writing and all sorts of fun stuff and storytelling.
Yeah. And you live in?
Oh, and I'm in Riverside.
Yeah. So is Edgar. He's the new
Yeah.
person here today. He lives in Riverside. Angela, can you introduce yourself? Is she there?
Oh, Angela.
Unmute yourself.
I'm asking her to unmute. She may have stepped away from the computer.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm here,
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
there, and then I'm trying. Oh, I'm.
We
my
can hear you
video is
now.
still- There I am. I'm in the living room.
Okay.
Hi, Edgar. I'm Angela. I live up in Victorville. Good evening. So I was a storytelling teacher in 2 different progressive elementary schools. So I worked mostly with kindergarten through sixth graders. And I stopped doing that in August last year. So, yep. And I just saw Ron up at the Sierra Storytelling Festival. We were together up there last weekend. We had a great time.
Wonderful place.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I just came to listen tonight.
Okay.
And-
Adrian, do you have a
Well,
story tonight?
I do. I just wanted to double check. So Edgar, you're out here in Riverside. What do you do in life as we know it?
Not a whole lot right now, but on a long vacation, extreme long vacation. Kind of help the family out. I was in education, special ed as a paraeducator, but
Wow.
when I got out of that, yeah, so we're similar, I think, in some ways. So I'm in Woodcrest area. I don't know if you know where that.
Okay.
Yeah. What area are you in?
Alright. Oh, I'm in the Victoria area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So yeah,
Are
John,
you
I
on
do.
Nextdoor.com,
What's that?
Edgar? Are you on Nextdoor.com?
Next door. No, I
It
haven't
would be a
heard that.
good way for you to get better connected to your community. And it's free. You will also get annoyed with some of the people on it, I promise you. It's like any other social network. You run across people who you wonder, are you sure you're capable of chewing gum and walking at the same time? But, you know,
Gotcha.
And you get to find out about a lot of people's pets, especially when they're missing.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then when they come home. Oh, yeah. I mean, and actually, just as a footnote to that, a friend of mine, her cat was missing for a couple of days, and he's like a 14-year-old cat. And came home 3 days later, and he just looked like he'd been in a bar fight. I mean, he was bloody and wounded and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, I wonder how the other guy turned out. You know, 'cause he definitely used up one of his 9 lives on that adventure. And that's the stuff the stories are made of, or animated movies.
Yeah.
So you have a story?
I do. I was just going to double check though, if any of you attend last month's June's genre concert with SAC?
I never can because Sierra Club has a thing on the third Wednesday of each month. It always conflicts.
Okay. Anyone else attend it?
No,
Okay, good. Because I'm going to tell the story I told that night, and I didn't want it to be like a big fat repeat for everybody, because it was folklore and fairy tales. And so I told the following story. There once lived a woman who had a son and a daughter, and one day the mother, feeling very ill and at death's door, called her daughter to her and said, "There, I give you this scarf and the comb, and never use another scarf but this one to wipe yourself with, and never use another comb to smooth your hair." And after saying this, she breathed her last. After the mother's death, the girl always obeyed her mother's commands. Whenever she used the comb, many seed pearls and large-sized ones fell from her head. And when she wiped herself with the scarf, the same thing happened. More pearls fell. The maiden related this to her brother, and he advised her to keep all the pearls that fell and string them up in bunches. The maiden then formed 6 long, glowing strands with the pearls she had. And the brother, who was a sailor, told her he would take and sell them to some king on the next voyage that he should make. So it happened that after a time he embarked on reaching a certain country, he went to the palace to offer the 6 lustrous strands of pearls. Well, a servant of the king appeared and offered to take them and show them to his majesty, but the sailor refused and said, No, I must present them myself in order to settle on the price. So he entered the king's apartment, and his majesty found the pearls to be of superior quality, very precious, very rare. and paid him a large sum for them and asked him where he had discovered such rich, lustrous pearls. The young man told his majesty everything, relating how his mother, when she was dying, gave his sister a scarf and a comb, and that every time she combed herself or used the scarf, many pearls fell, and seed pearls as well. The king said that he needs to bring his sister and present her to him together with the scarf and the comb, and if what he said was true, the king would marry his sister. However, if it was false, he would die. The young sailor returned home happy and delighted and gave his sister an account of what occurred. The sister was very pleased with the result of his interview with the king and resolved to take the scarf and the comb with her and accompany her brother on this next voyage to the country and marry the king. Before her departure, she informed a neighbor of hers that she was going to be queen. The neighbor asked her to do her a good turn, and seeing that, well, she was now going to be rich and noble, she allowed herself and her daughter to go in her company. So the day arrived for departure, and they all embarked, the maiden and her brother, the neighbor, and the neighbor's daughter. And when they were sailing far at sea, the neighbor gave the maiden a drink to poison her. As the maiden became very ill, the brother, anxious for her safety, every day came to inquire how she was getting on. One day, the neighbor gave her such a quantity of poison that the maiden remained like one dead. The brother, believing that she was dead, had her body, with much grief, thrown into the sea, as was the custom. After that, he began to lament, saying that he was very wretched and unfortunate now, as his sister had been the center of his only hope for advancing in life. The wily neighbor, hearing this, advised him to pass off her own daughter as his sister to the king and take her to the palace to present her. The brother replied that the difficulty was not so much in the maiden, but that the scarf and the comb might not act with her as it did with his sister. So they tested the girl. But no pearls or anything else ever fell when she made use of them. The neighbor then said that it was not to be expected that they would work there on the ship, but the moment they were in the presence of the king, the scarf and the comb would, without a doubt, work the miracle. They reached the land, and all three directed their steps to the palace. The young sailor presented his neighbor's daughter, the scarf and the comb to the king, saying she was his sister. The king ordered her at once to use the scarf, but nothing fell. And she combed herself with the comb, but instead of pearls, her hair fell from her head. The king, being very angry, said to the sailor, "Then you have deceived me. Now you must go to prison, and afterwards you shall be put to death." At the same moment, the servant who had gone to the beach with his net to catch a fish for his majesty's service, on reaching the sea, saw a large whale which had been thrown onto the beach and was dead. But inside the fish, he saw something move and heard a voice that said, "Let me out! Let me out of here! Let me out!" So he fetched his knife, very carefully cut the skin of the whale, and he saw the head of the maiden. He continued to slice open the fish really carefully, and greatly astonished that he at last extricated alive a maiden from the belly of this great fish. He took her with him and told her she must, for the present, remain shut up in a room of the palace and let no one know that she was there. The maiden told him her story and all that had happened to her during the voyage, and how she had been in the depths of the sea and the whale had actually saved her. The servant, on his part, related to her what her neighbor had been doing at the palace, presenting her daughter under false colors to the king, and all that followed. Sadly, he informed her that her brother was, on account of her, imprisoned and sentenced to die. On reaching the palace, the maiden was locked up in an apartment. She looked out the window every day towards the prison door where her brother was detained. And on one occasion, as she did so, she saw a little white dog that belonged to herself and her brother who had come along on the voyage as well. And calling out to her pet, she spoke to it, "Cylindra, tell me how my brother is today." The little dog replied, "He is daily expecting to be sent to the execution. And today is the first day the town crier publishes it." The next day, the maiden again looked out the window and again asked her little dog, "Cylindra, tell me how my brother is today." The little white dog replied, "Today the crier publishes the sentence of death for the second time." But the servant who had delivered the maiden, on hearing this, went to the king and revealed the whole plot against the maiden. The king, on hearing it, said, "If what you say is true, call me tomorrow when the maiden speaks to her dog, for I wish to listen to what he says." Well, the next day, at the right time, the king stood close to the window of his chamber to observe and to listen to the maiden. And he heard her say, "Cylindra, how is my brother today?" The little dog replied, "Today the execution is published for the last time." Ow, ow, ow. When the king heard this, he ordered that the brother and sister should be brought before him and into his presence. And on seeing the maiden, he told her to wipe her face with the scarf. And instantly, as she did, a shower of seed pearls began to fall from her head. And he ordered her to comb herself with that wonderful comb, and immediately large and rare pearls fell in profusion of the same class as the ones that were in the bunches that he had purchased from the sailor on the first voyage. The king then commanded the wily neighbor and the daughter to be put to death. And he married the maiden. She made a collar of pearls for her beloved little dog, Cylindra. And the brother had the great honor to be the brother-in-law to the king and brother to the queen, after all. And that is The Maiden from Whose Head Pearls Fell on Combing Herself, a Portuguese folk tale that was first published in the mid-1800s, but goes back many years before that.
Cool.
Very
Hip, hip,
good.
hooray.
That's a great one. How did you come across it?
Well, I was searching for actually more Celtic folk tales because, you know, that's kind of my jam. And and I ran across, oh no, actually it was, you know, when you, gosh, you know, when you fire up your online browser, sometimes you get those little squares of news stories and stuff.
Mhm.
And there was one that was something like, you know, the 12 best but least known fairy tales around the world or something. And I clicked through a bunch of them. And as I clicked on a couple of them, it led me to a site that had all these Portuguese fairy folk tales. And there was one for Celtic and all these other things, and other Hans Christian Andersen ones that we don't tell very often, and Grimm's Brothers ones we don't tell very often. And I looked through the Portuguese ones and I thought, this should be interesting. And I'm glad I did. Found, you know, this little nugget.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just sort of a random thing.
Okay. Anybody else have a story to tell? I have an announcement that I made beforehand, before other people joined. And that is this week, Elizabeth Ellis is telling at the International Storytelling Center, and they are recording it. And for $15, you can buy a virtual ticket, which becomes available to use Thursday night. And I think you have 4 or 5 days to listen to her stories that will have been recorded during her week at the International Storytelling Center. And I put the link in the chat. So if you'll go to chat, you'll see the link to the Storytelling Center store, and specifically about Elizabeth Ellis. And then
I'm showing you guys my dog. Can you see her?
Oh yeah.
Little Boo Boo. This is
Hi,
Maggie.
Boo Boo.
Hi, Mama.
A little white dog.
She's a little white dog.
Could have gone in perfectly to your story.
So Ron, do you want to make your announcement again?
Well, yes. The South Coast Storytelling Guild, the building that they met in for, I don't know, 12, 15 years, how long it was since I joined them, it was literally demolished by the church that owns the property, and they're building a much bigger building that they're going to make money on. Such is life. So we have been meeting in essentially a concrete box in Buena Park, which is inconvenient to absolutely everyone involved. So I have arranged for them to move to St. Paul's Church. Some of you were at my wedding there, where Robin grew up going and where we attend reasonably regularly, although it's a long drive from Riverside. But we're doing in-person and virtual storytelling from that location starting a week from Thursday. South Coast Story Guild, Storytellers of South Coast, they're easy to find on web. I should have looked up the link before I said anything about it, but I thought you may want to either join us in person or Zoom in and tell a tale.
Great. So Edgar, did you plan on telling a story, or are you just here to listen today?
Yeah, I could tell real quick. I mean, it's not very long. It's a couple minutes or so.
Right, so you start.
Okay.
That's
All right. Let me put you on spotlight and go for it.
Okay. First, I don't know if you can see this. That's good if you can't, because this is part of what happened. This thing passed by us down the road. It looked like some kind of car. We weren't sure what kind of car it was. Was it a Google Map car? Was it a surveillance car? Was it some kind of different kind of cop car? I'll show it to you again. It was going real fast, and it stopped for a little bit, and then it went again. Me and my friend were like, what is this? So we for a couple of weeks, more and more of them all the time were driving by. And so I went on a Facebook group and I said, what is this car? I took a picture of it, even though it was really going by fast. And they said, that's a self-driving car. This is back before, this was when they were first testing them out. And so me and my friend were living in a lady's living room. She was a hypochondriac who thought she was dying of black mold toxicity and gave herself pesticide facials. So we were not sure exactly how this is going to go. So we were living in this lady's house, and she had a lot of sketchy friends who had arrest records for domestic violence and all these other kind of issues. And so it made us, we were living in our living room, strapped to a chair and a couch. And it felt like we weren't sure the future was kind of unknown, just like those cars driving by. Who knows what exactly the future holds, but we're going somewhere. And that's my story.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I just have a question. Did you say you were strapped to a chair and a couch?
That not metaphorically, I guess.
Okay, thank
We were
you.
like in this living, yeah. Sorry, not literally.
And how long ago was this?
Probably 6 years ago or somewhere around there.
Okay,
Quite a
thank.
while.
I'm glad you made it out.
We are too, yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah, I
Right.
have another announcement to make, and that is the Inland Valley Storytellers this November will again be doing 2 celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
Will Why I haven't confirmed with Folk Music Center, but I don't think it'll be any problem doing a live concert there again, like we did last year, which would be the Saturday before Thanksgiving, which I believe is the 19th of November, but it's somewhere around there. And I was contacted by the Sacramento Storytelling Guild and asked if we'd be willing to join with them. And I agreed to do that. So I'll be sending out an announcement sometime within the next week or so to the people in our group who normally do performances to see which people and plus I'm going to contact Ellen at the Folk Music Center to make sure we do have that date locked down, and then ask people which they'd rather participate in, a Zoom virtual thing or a live performance at the Folk Music Center. And the one with the Sacramento Storytelling Guild is Sunday afternoon. So we would do ours Saturday night, the traditional one, live, and then we would do the Zoom event Sunday afternoon, coordinated with the Sacramento Storytelling Guild. So
Sounds good. All right. Cool.
Sounds really good.
something to
I'll
look
do one or
forward.
the other or whatever is needed, John.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, me too. I don't have any particular preference one way or another.
That sounds great. I have an online consultation customer or client I gotta go meet.
Okay.
Help her with the political speech. So she's running for office in Texas, and I hope she wins. But anyway, so I gotta run. And yeah, thumbs up to both concerts. I'm glad we're gonna do that both in November. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Adrian. Oh, one other thing. I got a text from Karen Ray Kraut, and she said she's sorry she wasn't able to join us tonight. She had planned on it, and she even had a story ready to tell. Unfortunately, something came up with her husband
Mhm.
that she had to deal with. And
With Bruce.
yeah, Bruce.
I don't know if you all have been following the things around the National Storytelling Network. But there is a 1-day conference where they're going to have a membership meeting on July 30th. It's a Saturday. We're going to present 4 Oracle Awards, and those 4 tellers, Marilyn McPhee is one of them, Laura Sims, Cooper Braun, Enos, and then Rachel Ann Harding. They'll do a concert following the award ceremony. So
Yeah, I just got an email about that.
yeah. And the woman who's been the executive director of NSN has handed in her resignation. Her last day of work is the 14th of July.
Oh,
There's going to be big shifting of some kind. So a lot of unknowns for the national network.
are there financial problems?
Yeah, they didn't really have a lot of money they have money, but they didn't have a lot to keep her on. So she made a decision to hand in her resignation. So there's all kinds of, there's a major proposal that's been made that's asking for volunteers to do a lot of things. So we'll see how it all shakes out. The membership meeting on the 30th of July, should bring some news. So anyway.
Sounds like an important meeting.
Yeah. If you go to the website for StoryNet for the net NSN, you'll see the schedule that they have. So
That's storynet.org, isn't it?
yes. Yeah. So
So Adrian asked me a question in the chat, which I think I'm just gonna, oh, did she leave? Oh, she left, draft.
Yeah.
I'll have to email her. So one thing I told Ron that he didn't know about is that you can save the chat. There's not a whole lot there this time, but I showed him how to click on the 3 little dots and save chat.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Would have been
Well,
helpful several times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So unless there's any other announcements or stories to tell, I think maybe we can wrap this thing up. I'm gonna.
Oh, some of you wouldn't know, in August, Robin and I will be in England and Ireland. So
Cool.
making an international journey.
Right.
There's a story behind it because a lot of you remember the Red Nighttail, that I worked so hard on with Angela and a lot of other things. And
Yeah.
I was going to present it at the same festival where Dr. Stephen Babman had presented our work on these archaic tales. But it was supposed to be this year and they changed it to next year, but we had already made our reservations. So I'm going to be forced to go to Great Britain twice. Ain't it a shame?
Yeah.
So that's what's happening in my life. But I thought you guys might be interested.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Ron, because it just occurred to me. I'm going to be camping at 11,000 feet in the Sierras.
Whoa.
On August. Oh, no, I won't. That's right. I'll be able to do the August Zoom. Yeah, I just won't be able to do the Sierra Club thing the next week. Okay, so no problem with me being there, but you won't be there for August, will you?
Nope. Nope, I'm going to be on the other side of the world playing tourist.
Yeah.
Good. Well done.